Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. Why are scales important? The video I did just yesterday or day before on modal exchange really underlines how crucial it is for us as composers and producers to understand the entire palette of scales at our disposal. Let's talk a little bit about how to really acquire a broad understanding of scales. I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that for most musicians and most of you watching this video, you've come to music either through playing guitar or keyboard. Those are sort of our two biggest semantic frameworks for understanding scales and chords in the sort of outgrowth of European common practice that we think of as contemporary Western songwriting, right? And the instruments deeply influence how scales work. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to say that there are physical rules about what sounds good just based on frequency. And the very first one that early composers and producers and music theorists, and when I say early, I mean thousands of years ago, noticed was the effect of the octave. The doubling of frequencies yields the octave, and everything flows from that. There are a couple of other notes that are important just in terms of the harmonic ratios, the fifth, and so on. No matter what pitch I begin with, there will be an octave, there will be a fifth. And that means that those ratios and those relationships are always present for us in any system, in any sort of solid location. And that solid location becomes the basis for a scale. Now, in our Western system, we divide the octave into 12 equal parts, but the major scale that we use is not an equal division. It's divided whole step, half step, whole, and then a half step, the leading tone, a very important note to get back to the next note at the top. The scale that I just played was the C major scale. And I want you to look at all of the notes down here on the keyboard. There are none of the black keys are being played. This is a black key, this is a black key, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter what color it is, obviously. But that set of notes, and really it's really just those seven, isn't it? That set of notes physically is super easy to play on the piano keyboard. There's a whole step between these two tones. A whole step is two half steps. In between this note and this note, there's an equal division, and that note exists. The same thing happens here. In between this note and this note, there's an equal division, a black key, that note there. But look, between the third and fourth white keys, there is no black key. And in fact, the distance between this note and say this note and this note is musically speaking the same. It's a half step. The scale is built of whole and half steps. Whole, half, whole, half. And the half step is leading us back to the octave. There are only 7 notes. The last half step is the thing that gets us back into the octave. If I start, for instance, say on the next note up from C, D, then I'm going to go whole step, and my whole step is a black key. That's the note in between. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. Because of the way the piano keyboard is constructed, I've had to integrate a physical adjustment. The piano keyboard wants me to play in the key of C if I want to play this scale. It's a nonsensical heritage constraint that goes back centuries. And unfortunately, it's carried over into many of the tools that we use today. If you're a producer, you might have a MIDI keyboard. It looks like the one on the screen. If you have an edit grid in your DAW, it looks like the one that you're looking at right here. It's got those black lines grouped in 3 and grouped in 2. The piano keyboard has become a conceptual model for the framework of scales. I play guitar. Guitar is a very different beast, isn't it? You learn one scale shape and you've got it. What that does to a guitarist is it pushes you towards, geez, do I have my guitar here? I don't. It doesn't really matter because if you're a guitarist, you know what I mean. Once you learn the shape of the major, minor, pentatonic scale, whatever it is, it works no matter where you are in the guitar. And what it's going to encourage you to do is think of scales and melodic patterns as being physical shapes, right? As a pianist or as a producer working on a DAW and an edit environment like this, we're encouraged to think of scales not as physical experiences, but rather as collections of whole and half steps. And some of those collections will be much more awkward to manage than others, which is why you have to practice your scales. Here's what I think you should do to practice your scales. I talk about it in my tetrachord video, and I'm going to say it again here. If you want to really acquire the facility of understanding, and understanding is a facility that you can acquire. You can sit there and go like, I don't understand, but you can change that. If you want to acquire the facility of understanding, ask yourself to do this daily for a month. Join me in making this commitment. Plop your hands down on a note and tuck your thumbs under. You're going to play 4 notes in this hand and 4 notes in this hand. The little fingers will be the bottom note of the scale and its octave. And you just sit down on any note. I'm going to sit down on A and go whole step, half step. That was my first 4 fingers. And now I'm going to go to the second 4 fingers, whole step. It's a black key dam, whole step. And then I'm at the octave. That's 2 tetrachords, 1 in each hand, separated by a whole step. 2 tetrachords, whole step, half step. The major scale is foundational, and it lays out on the keyboard and on our edit grid in a way that is awkward and is different for every major key. It's different physically for every major key. It's horrible. It doesn't make sense. It's not logical. It's not scientific. It's not even friendly. It's not fair. And when I asked about it when I was a young piano student, my teacher was like, I don't know, that's just the way it is. And, that's just the way it is. I hate that, but it's just the way it is, right? A lot of people have thought about this in detail and have created new keyboards, but just between you and me, none of them have caught on. It's an academic pursuit. We're stuck with this because this is what we have. Oh, it's almost like a political social problem, isn't it? We're stuck with this because this is what we have. This is how my father did it, so I have to do it this way. So if you get good at that, and you might get good at that in a month, I want you to try the next thing, which is to play all 5 notes of that scale with those 5 fingers. And then pick your hand up and move them up to the next 5 notes. Can you see I've got a group of 5 notes that goes a couple of black keys in there, and then the next 5 notes, and then the next 5 notes. Get your hand used to what I call the terrain of the scale. The terrain of the scale is the field of action in which everything takes place. The field of action in which everything takes place is kind of the mode or the just general harmonic color of the piece you're working on. And you've got to have a sense of what that is if you're going to do anything like the stuff that we've been talking about with modal exchange or any kind of like even conventional modulation. This isn't just theory, right? This is very physical, experiential, and it's grounded in our understanding and our ability to act. Once you acquire the physical skills and the understanding of what's happening physically, your intuition, the part of you which you already value as a musician, will begin to integrate that into your creative impulses. But you've got to, I guess I'll just say this, you've got to put in the time. And if you're going to put in the time, there's two things I want you to do. And I've said them already, and I'm going to repeat them. The first one is the 4 fingers on each hand scale steady. Start with major scales. God knows there's others. Start with major scales. Okay, I'm going to start a major scale on G, whole step, half step. That's my first tetrachord. My second tetrachord starts a whole step above that. Whole step, dang, there's a black key. It's okay. There's going to be a black key in every major scale except for C. It's okay. You see it on the screen? That's what it looks like on the screen. Let's do one that starts on a black key. Why not? I'm going to start on this black key here. It's called F sharp. You don't really have to know what it's called, but it's called F sharp. Whole step, half step. And then the next tetrachord, a whole step above that. Whole step, half step. Played an F sharp major scale, didn't use my thumbs. The thumbs are very awkward. If you get good at knowing what notes, knowing them is in every scale, then go to grabbing 5 of those notes in one hand, left or right, or both. Let's do B major. Here's the B major scale. I know those are the first 5 notes, second group of 5 notes, third group of 5 notes, so on, so forth. My hand acquires the information about what it needs to do to grab those 5 notes, and my eyes acquire the information about what that terrain looks like on the editing, in the editing window. The legacy of the major scale, how we divide the octave in Western common practice, and the legacy of the physical interface of the keyboard and the way it projects onto our editing grid in our DAW is a fact of life for producers. And you may bemoan it, and I, believe me, have heard many students tear out their hair around how frustrating it is. But my recommendation is get busy and learn it. It'll take you a few months. You're going to be alive a couple months from now. A couple months from now, would you rather know this or not know this? So start now. A couple of months, you'll know this, and you'll be happy about it. Now, it takes a long time to get good at playing the piano. I'm not saying get good at playing the piano. I'm saying understand it. Understand it. It'll help you with modal exchange. It'll help you with all of your modes. It'll help you anytime somebody talks about theory, and it will not help you in any other way. But it will help you do those things. I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe and ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. Ask me questions about this. Like, I've known this for so long, I don't know what I know. You know what I mean? So if you're confused about this, I will take another pass at it. I'll see you next time.